then she goes to her family.
The saddest thing about starving children is their equanimity. They don't cry. They don't smile. They don't move. Their tiny bodies have shut down all non-essential operations, reserving every last calorie to survive. Is she also giving him other solid food as well? I'm Nicholas Kristof of the New York Times. I traveled through 5 West African countries with my Win-a-Trip student, Paul Bowers.
In Sierra Leone, Nick and I visited a Doctors Without Borders emergency feeding station where we met Thomas Dowda, a little boy suffering from malnutrition. Thomas had been under the care for 10 days when we met him. The doctor said he was much improved, but it was hard to imagine him being any more frail. His mother, Yata, is separated from Thomas's father and barely affords to feed Thomas and his 2 siblings.
And does the husband sometimes give money to the children?
When he comes, he does not give anything.
Yata told us that Thomas's father, a diamond miner, never buys his children food. Seeing Thomas's emaciated body is heartbreaking. But we also discovered a kind of hidden malnutrition here in West Africa that affects many children, even those who appear to be healthy.
The fact of the matter is that image of the starving child in a really desperate, almost famine situation doesn't represent really the magnitude of the problem. You have, for every child who's in that condition, you have 10 more who are just somewhat undernourished, and many, many more than that who suffer deficiencies in what we call micronutrients, vitamin and minerals like vitamin A, iron, zinc.
We were joined on our journey by Sean Baker, who works with Helen Keller International to distribute critical vitamins and minerals, especially vitamin A, which helps prevent blindness and child mortality.
The challenge of micronutrient malnutrition isn't usually one of cost, but of distribution to the poorest. One way is to add those vitamins and minerals to common staples of the local diet.
In Guinea, we toured the country's leading flour mill. Helen Keller International is helping the mill fortify its products with iron, folic acid, and vitamin B. Mill workers proudly showed us the fortification process, which costs almost nothing, but which will help stave off anemia and maternal mortality and reduce cognitive impairments in growing children. These kinds of fortifications are now more necessary than ever. The rise of food prices takes a heavy toll on the world's poorest. One study found that a 50% rise in food prices in poor countries leads to a 30% drop in iron intake. The World Bank has estimated that United Nations goals of overcoming global poverty have been pushed back by 7 years by the global crisis. It estimates that an additional 44 million children suffered permanent physical or mental impairment because of malnutrition.
Obviously, Thomas needs more calories to regain normal weight. But even then, he'll need those micronutrients. Children who don't get necessary vitamins and minerals are not only at greater risk of stunted growth and development, but also of death.
It's estimated that somewhere between 1/3 to half of all under 5 mortality is attributable to malnutrition, meaning that if these kids had not been malnourished, did not have vitamin and mineral deficiencies, they would not be dying. They would still be getting certain diseases, but their immune systems would be such they'd be able to fight them off.
Listen, I know that micronutrients aren't flashy, but they're one of the most cost-effective ways to improve the health of children and mothers in the developing world. In the United States and other developed countries, much of our food is already fortified. As a result, we've virtually forgotten about micronutrients. It's time to remember just how vital they can be. For the New York Times, I'm Nicholas Kristof.
And I'm Paul Bowers.
Look at that.